9 has been revealed. She's looking awesome. Her design's very clean and everything. And season 2 is just around the corner. A lot of people are prepping for that. A lot of people are pre-farming for 9. A lot of people are prepping for things. I, on the other hand, despite being free to play, I'm not preparing for 9. I'm just gonna let things happen. But kind of because I am free to play, I am still trying to work on my Narja. Not quite done there, slowly but surely making progress on her. And the other thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get better memory fragments on my Serennial because she is still not quite at 50% crit chance. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on before going into season 2. Sure, I could invest in pre-farming 9 and then having her to use in the season 2 content, but I think it's kind of better for me, in my opinion, for me to focus on the characters I already have and get them a little bit up to speed and tackle most of the content with them instead of 9. Pull her and then have her and build her slowly but surely through it, as I'm sure the harder content in season 2 will kind of require you to have 9 on the team, where things and monsters will be weaker to order type units, which 9 is. So that's kind of my game plan for that. But the other big thing about season 2 is the big nerfs happening. The main characters that pretty much carried all of season 1, and that is going to be Tressa over here. Big changes to her. First of all, Agony is getting completely nerfed, and because Agony as a whole is getting nerfed, a number of Tressa's cards base damage is actually getting increased to kind of balance it out, because her main kit of Agony is getting nerfed. There's a bunch of caps and the way it works getting changed. And the biggest thing here is that the upgrade card that lets you build those daggers from heals no longer exists, going to be completely changed. Making daggers through healing is no longer going to be a thing. We are going to get kind of compensated for that if you've invested in her. You even have the option of taking all her resources that you invested in her and getting all those materials back so that you can put them on other characters if you so choose. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to keep her. But I am also not going to try and improve her all that much. So we can definitely say RIP to Tressa, which is kind of sad, but also, yes, Shadow Reload, this build gone, completely wasted. I didn't put too much effort into building her. I just got this and called it a day to beat the content. It was very useful, very helpful. She did her work, but her changes are quite significant. I don't know how big of a nerf it is yet. It sounds really bad. Like, the nerf sounds really big. I feel like they might have gone in too hard on her. I feel like she's going to end up being trash to a lot of people. But time will tell. I think testing needs to be done to see how much weaker she is and how those changes are. Some of those changes do include some balancing to, like, some minor buffs to kind of balance it out. So we kind of just have to see how it all pans out. But other changes, and another meta character is Cassius. He's getting big boy changes as well. He's getting nerfed, and a lot of people are saying RIP to him as well. And yeah, they're pretty significant. He's no longer going to have an infinite chain of damage. He's going to get capped for some of his build epiphanies to continuously do damage, which is kind of unfortunate. But yeah, I think a lot of people are going to stop using him. A lot of people are not going to invest in him. I don't have a proper build of him, but I'm actually going to completely stop and wait for season 2 to come out to continue using him. That being said, he did get a buff in heals. He's going to have a little bit more sustain, so using him in chaos runs is a little bit more viable. But what's the point on you having a healer for chaos and making him more viable in chaos when you have Narja? If you're going to build a character, you need to build Cassius, you bring in Narja who has heals, and you bring your DPS, and Cassius is just there to join the ride, in my opinion. But I guess if there are new people coming in, they don't have their Narja yet, and they pull a Cassius and don't have another healer outside of Mika who's free, they can use Cassius for a little bit more sustain if they so choose. That being said, RIP to Cassius. But in a surprising manner, a different 4-star is actually getting a buff. And is probably going to be the 4-star to build right now instead of Tressa and Cassius, and that is Nia. Nia's getting a buff, and she's actually getting a buff in her heals. She's going to have a little bit more sustain for chaos runs because she is quite annoying to build in a chaos run. She's kind of useless, to say the least. But in terms of the debuffs, the nerfs on Cassius, I think this actually increases Nia's potential for using her for drawing and all that stuff. in my opinion. So I think people are going to start building Nia a little bit more than Cassius moving forward. Again, test needs to be done. I'll let the people that are a lot smarter than me figure those things out. Speaking of draw, there's an unfortunate nerf to Rally. Unfortunately, Rally is now going to have included an exhaust of 2, which means you use it twice and it disappears for the rest of the turn, which gives a really big issue to long-lasting battles. With including exhaust, that means that a lot of people are going to kind of focus on making hyper decks that you beat things in 1 to 2 turns instead of long-lasting battles, and that seems to be the shift moving forward, which kind of goes to like works out for me a little bit because I like to build lean decks because then there's less thinking involved. So I guess it's an okay, it doesn't affect me too much, but Rally is getting nerfed. It's very unfortunate to see, but let's move on to some good news, and it is some incredible news to me. Chizuru is getting buffed and it's going to be insane. I love the buffs that Chizuru are getting. I mean, she's already buff enough in 2 great areas, but we can use some more buffs. We don't mind more buffs. This card is getting buffed. Inhibit is getting a little bit of a change. Inhibit prevents you from gaining AP outside of applying Ravage to an enemy. That's getting slightly changed. You can now gain AP from Divine Epiphanies. So I am so happy for this because that means that this build I have on Chizuru is actually going to be more viable because of the plus AP. Zero cost Tsukiyomi with +1 AP is actually going to be kind of insane. At least that's the way I read it. So yeah, if a card has a plus AP from a Divine Epiphany, those will now apply, which is great. It's great for this deck. So if you get Divine Epiphanies on your Chizuru that give AP, you should not ignore them anymore. That's kind of the big news there. When Season 2 comes out, I'm going to go back to improving my Chizuru a little more. I mean, I could still do that. I kind of stopped because I hit this deck over here. I'm pretty happy with it, but now I want more, and more I shall get. So yeah, that's kind of like the major thing. There's also other buffs, mostly on characters I don't really use. I know Orlea apparently got a buff. Among other things, there was changes to Magna and how she works a little bit, and there's been a handful of other changes. So you can go ahead and read those notes if you have the time and feel like reading. But yeah, those are kind of the major updates, and those are the big ones that affect me and kind of just how I'm looking at Season 2 and getting ready for it. So yeah, let me know how you're getting ready for Season 2 in the comments down below.